My name is Nora Bellamy. I'm 31 years old, and 2 months ago, on Thanksgiving night, in front of 32 members of my extended family, my parents handed my younger sister a $12,000 cruise voucher wrapped in gold ribbon, and they handed me a single dollar store lottery ticket folded into a napkin. My mother's exact words, spoken loud enough that the whole dining room went quiet to hear them, were, "This is more your speed, sweetheart. No pressure to perform." Everyone laughed. My father laughed hardest of all. What none of them knew, what I didn't even know yet, was that the ticket in that napkin was about to be worth $98 million. And the story I'm about to tell you isn't really about the money. It's about what people show you when they think you'll never have the power to do anything about it. Before I get into it, if this story pulls you in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, but only if you actually want to be here for it. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now. I love seeing where everyone tunes in from. Alright. Let's go back to that Thanksgiving table. The family I was born into. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand the shape of my family, because it wasn't chaos. It was choreography. Every person had a role, and mine had been assigned to me before I could talk. My father, Gerald Bellamy, ran a small insurance brokerage that had been about to take off for as long as I could remember. My mother, Denise, had built her entire identity around my younger sister, Camille, who was 28, married to a man named Derek Vance, and, according to my mother, destined for a kind of greatness the rest of us should be grateful to witness up close. Camille had always been the daughter people noticed first. Radiant, easy with a laugh, married into what looked like money. Derek called himself a private wealth strategist, which meant, as far as I could tell, that he wore expensive watches and talked about markets at parties. I was the other one. The quiet one. The one who'd gone to school for landscape design instead of business, who ran my own small studio out of a converted garage, who showed up to every holiday with something homemade because I couldn't afford, or didn't want to spend, on anything store-bought and flashy. My mother had a phrase for what I did. She called it Nora's little hobby, even though it paid my rent, employed 2 part-time contractors, and had my name on 3 public parks in the county. I'd stopped correcting her years ago. Some things aren't worth the argument. My grandmother was different. Nana Ruth was my father's mother, 84 years old, sharp as a blade even as her body slowed down. She was the only person in that family who ever asked me a real question about my life and then actually listened to the answer. She lived alone in the house she'd raised my father in, on Larkspur Lane, a house my parents had started talking about a little too often in the last year, always in that concerned, performative tone people use when they're circling something they want. I didn't think much of it at the time. I should have. That Thanksgiving, I arrived at 4:30 with a tray of roasted root vegetables I'd grown myself and a jar of quince preserves for Nana Ruth, because she loved anything tart. My mother opened the door, glanced at the tray, and said, "Oh. You brought vegetables again," in the exact tone someone might use to describe finding a stray cat on their porch. Behind her, the house was already loud with cousins and aunts and the particular electric hum that meant Camille had arrived first, as always, and was already the center of the room. The night had started to crack. I walked into the living room carrying my tray, and nobody looked up. My father was deep in conversation with Derek, the two of them leaning in like old war buddies. My mother had already crossed the room to fuss over Camille's hair, her dress, the new diamond studs Derek had apparently just given her. "Nora, good, you're here," my father said without turning around. "The tables need setting." Of course they did. I was there to work, the same way I'd always been there to work, the unpaid staff of every family gathering, invisible until something needed carrying. I set the table alone while the sound of the party drifted in from the next room. At one point my mother brought a cousin from out of town over to introduce me. "This is Nora, my older daughter," she said. "She does something with plants." "Landscape architecture," I said. "I design public green spaces." "Sure, gardening," my mother said, already turning away. I didn't argue. I never argued. I'd learned a long time ago that some fights aren't worth having, not because I didn't care, but because winning them never actually changed anything. It was while I was refilling the water pitchers that I overheard the conversation that would matter more than I could have known. The kitchen door was cracked, and my mother's voice slipped through it, low and conspiratorial, the tone reserved for conversations meant to stay behind closed doors. "The ship leaves the 18th, she was saying. 10 days, the whole Caribbean route. You, Derek, us, and Grandma Ruth too if she's up for it." Camille's voice, light and unconcerned, "What about Nora?" A pause. Then my father, "She's busy with her business. Besides, it's not cheap. We don't want to put that on her." They hadn't asked if I was busy. They hadn't asked if I could afford it. They had simply decided, in a room I wasn't in, that I wasn't worth including. I pushed the door open before I could stop myself. "I'm not invited?" 3 faces turned toward me, caught. My mother recovered fastest. "Sweetheart, this trip is really more for Derek, he just got promoted, and we wanted to celebrate as a family. It's not about you." "It's really not personal," Camille added, in the honeyed voice she used when she wanted something to sound kinder than it was. "You're just always so independent. We figured you wouldn't even want to come." Independent. That word again. The word they reached for whenever what they actually meant was outsider. I might have said something else, but movement in the hallway caught my eye. Nana Ruth was standing there, gripping her cane, having clearly heard every word. Her eyes met mine, sharp, unreadable, full of something I couldn't name yet. She reached out, squeezed my hand once, and said nothing. "Ruth, you should be sitting," my mother said quickly, already steering her away. Before she disappeared around the corner, my grandmother looked back at me and mouthed 3 words I didn't understand yet. The humiliation at the table. Dinner began the way it always did, my father tapping his glass with a fork, calling for quiet, delivering a toast about family and gratitude that sounded rehearsed because it was. 32 people nodded along. I counted them. 32 witnesses to what came next. "This year," my father said, beaming, "your mother and I wanted to do something special for both our girls." He gestured toward Camille first. "Come here, sweetheart." Camille floated forward in her new dress, and my mother pressed a thick envelope into her hands. Inside was the cruise voucher, first class, balcony suite, the whole family included except me, though nobody said that part out loud. Camille gasped, pressed a hand to her chest, and burst into photogenic tears. The room erupted in applause. Derek clapped my father on the back like they'd just closed a deal together. Then my mother turned to me. The room quieted, the way it does when people sense a punchline coming. "Nora, honey, come here." She pressed a thin envelope into my hands. Inside was a single scratch-off lottery ticket, the kind you buy at a gas station for $2. "This felt more appropriate for your situation," she said, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "Who knows, maybe luck will find you, since ambition hasn't." Someone snorted. Then someone else. Derek leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Careful with that thing, Nora. Don't spend it all in one place." Laughter rippled around the table. Camille covered her mouth, giggling. My face burned, but somewhere underneath the humiliation, something else was happening, a kind of quiet, cold clarity settling into place. "Thank you," I said evenly. "I'm sure this is exactly what I deserve." Nobody caught the edge in my voice. I did. The laughter was still dying down when a thin, firm voice cut through it. "Gerald. Denise. That is enough." Everyone turned. Nana Ruth had walked back into the room without her walker, trembling with the effort of standing unassisted, her voice thin but carrying across the whole table. "You will not treat this girl like a joke at her own family's table. Not tonight. Not ever again." The silence that followed was different from before, heavier, uncomfortable, the kind of silence that comes when someone says the thing everyone else has been avoiding for years. My father's jaw tightened. "Mother, please." I am not finished, Gerald. But my mother was already moving, wrapping an arm around her with practiced efficiency. You're tired, Ruth. Let's get you to the guest room to rest. I watched, helpless, as my mother guided my grandmother out of the room. At the doorway, Nana Ruth looked back at me. Our eyes met, and she nodded once, deliberately, before her gaze flicked toward her old leather handbag sitting untouched on the armchair by the window, the one she never let anyone touch. The door closed. The room exhaled. Conversation resumed like nothing had happened at all. But I noticed my Aunt Corinne watching me from across the table, pale, her mouth half open like she wanted to say something and then thought better of it. What I found in my father's study. It was nearly midnight when I started clearing dishes, alone, as usual. Most of the guests had left. Camille and Derek were in the living room, scrolling through cruise excursions on their phones. My parents were saying goodbye to the last stragglers by the front door. I carried a stack of plates through the hallway and past my father's study, the door slightly open. I meant to just close it. Instead, I saw the papers scattered across his desk, like he'd left in a hurry and never came back to clean up. Overdue notices. A letter from a collections agency. And beneath all of it, a document that made my stomach drop, a private loan agreement, my father's signature at the bottom, co-signed by Derek Vance. $160,000, at an interest rate that had no business being legal. My hands were shaking as I flipped to the next page. It was worse. Collateral documents, listing a property as security against the loan. Nana Ruth's house on Larkspur Lane. The house she'd lived in for over 50 years. The house that was supposed to be hers until she passed, and mine and Camille's after that, the way she'd always said it would be. There was her signature at the bottom. Shaky. Uneven. Dated from 6 months earlier, the same month she'd fallen in her kitchen and spent 2 weeks in the hospital on heavy pain medication, barely lucid half the time we visited. They'd gotten her to sign it while she wasn't herself. I pulled out my phone and photographed every page, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I didn't have a plan yet. I just understood, in that moment, something that had been sitting just out of reach my whole life. The favoritism was never really about love. It was never really about Camille being the golden child. I was the threat. I was the one who might ask questions, who might notice when something didn't add up. They needed me small. Quiet. Easy to dismiss with a $2 joke. I slipped out the back door with the photos saved and my mind racing, and for the first time in my life, I understood I wasn't going to stay quiet about it. The phone call with Aunt Corinne. A week after Thanksgiving, I called my Aunt Corinne. She picked up on the second ring, like she'd been expecting it. Nora. Aunt Corinne, I need to ask you something. Is my dad in serious debt? Silence. Long enough that I almost thought the call had dropped. You already know something, don't you? She finally said. How? I saw papers. A loan with Derek's name on it. Nora. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Don't talk about this on the phone. Why not? Because there are things about Derek you don't know yet. About your father, too. My grip tightened around the phone. What things? Not like this. Meet me Saturday. The diner on Preston Street. 2 o'clock. Aunt Corinne, please. And Nora, she said, cutting me off, her voice tight. Don't trust a single word Derek tells you. He isn't who he's pretending to be. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat in my apartment that night staring at the lottery ticket, which I'd shoved in a kitchen drawer and mostly forgotten about since Thanksgiving. On a whim, I pulled it back out, opened the state lottery app, and scanned the numbers just to be done with it. The first number matched. My heart skipped. The second matched. I stopped breathing. Third. Fourth. Fifth. All 6. I refreshed the app. Same result. I checked the official website. Same result. $98 million. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat perfectly still for what felt like an hour, and then I did the only thing that made sense to me in that moment. I remembered my grandmother's words in the hallway. Call Arthur Whitfield. It was time to make that call. The lawyer's office. I told absolutely no one. For 3 days I walked through my own life like a ghost, answering client emails, meeting with a city planning board about a new park design, smiling at people over coffee, all while carrying a secret worth 9 figures folded into my back pocket. I didn't buy anything. I didn't post anything. I didn't call my parents, or Camille, or do any of the things people are supposed to do when they win the lottery. Instead, I called Arthur Whitfield. Ms. Bellamy. His voice was warm, careful, professional. Your grandmother mentioned you might call. She told you to expect me? I don't even know why. Perhaps you should come to my office. There are some matters we should discuss. A pause. I understand congratulations may also be in order. You've won something, I said carefully. How did you? Your grandmother has excellent instincts, he said. But Ms. Bellamy, the matter she wanted me to discuss with you existed long before any lottery ticket. It concerns her estate. And her house. My stomach dropped. What about her house? It's better explained in person. Can you come tomorrow? Yes. And Mr. Whitfield, please don't mention this to anyone in my family. Not yet. His office smelled like old paper and leather, the kind of place that looked like it hadn't updated its furniture since the 80s and didn't need to. Whitfield himself was in his early 60s, silver-haired, wire-rimmed glasses, the sort of lawyer who still seemed to believe the job was about doing right by people. Please, sit, he said, sliding a folder across his desk. 10 years ago, your grandmother established a trust in your name. The room tilted slightly. A trust. I never knew about that. $400,000, he said. She never told you because she was afraid your mother would find a way around it. Afraid of what, exactly? That your mother would convince her to redirect it. Or worse. He folded his hands. There's more. The house. I assume you've seen the paperwork. I saw a deed. My father used it as collateral. He nodded gravely. Signed 6 months ago, the day after your grandmother was hospitalized. She was on heavy pain medication at the time, barely lucid, by the nurse's own notes. That's fraud. Potentially. The signature is inconsistent with her normal handwriting, and the timeline is troubling. Proving coercion in court is difficult without direct witnesses, but it's not impossible. He leaned forward. Your father owes Derek Vance $160,000. The house was pledged as collateral. If your father defaults, Derek is entitled to claim the property. The pieces slid into place all at once, the favoritism, the exclusion, the $2 joke at the table. I was never supposed to find any of this out. What can I do about it? I asked. With your resources now, Whitfield said carefully, quite a lot. We can contest the deed. We can settle the debt and remove the lien entirely. We can protect your grandmother's home and her future. I looked down at the trust documents. $400,000 from a woman who'd quietly believed in me for a decade. $98 million from a ticket handed to me as an insult. Let's protect her, I said. What Aunt Corinne knew about Derek. Let me pause here for a second, because I know what some of you are already thinking. Nora, please tell me you burned the whole thing down. Just hold on, because this isn't really a revenge story. It's a truth story. If you want to see where this goes, let me know in the comments, and drop a like if you're rooting for me right now. Now, back to the diner. Aunt Corinne was already in a corner booth when I arrived, looking older than she had at Thanksgiving, her hands wrapped tight around a coffee mug like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Thank you for meeting me, I said. I should have said something years ago, she answered quietly. But you know how your mother is. Tell me about Derek. She glanced around the diner before she spoke. He's not a wealth strategist. Not really. He lends money to people who are desperate, at rates that would make a loan shark blush. Your father isn't the only one. I suspected something like that. What else? She pulled out her phone with trembling hands. At your parents' anniversary dinner a couple months back, Derek left his phone unlocked on the table. I wasn't snooping, I was looking for mine. She turned the screen toward me. Text messages. Between Derek and someone named Priya. Explicit. Unmistakable. Once the house deal closes, I'm done playing house with Camille. She served her purpose. Don't worry, the papers are already drafted. I stared at the screen, feeling something cold settle in my chest. He's cheating on her. And planning to leave once he's got the property. 4 months, Corinne said, her eyes filling. I wanted to tell Camille. I was scared. Derek isn't the kind of man you cross quietly. Does she know any of this? I don't think so. She's so wrapped up in playing the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, she doesn't see what's right in front of her. I sat back, letting it settle. My sister wasn't my enemy in any of this. She was another person being used, she just didn't know it yet. Thank you for telling me, I said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. I'm sorry I waited this long, Nora. I really am. It's not too late, I told her. And I meant it. Nana Ruth's room. The care facility where my grandmother was staying smelled like antiseptic and wilting flowers. Her room was small but bright, with a window overlooking a garden that clearly needed help, my kind of help. She looked smaller than I remembered. Frilier. But her eyes still had that same sharpness when I walked in. Nora, she said, reaching for my hand. You came. Of course I came. I pulled a chair close. Grandma, I talked to Mr. Whitfield. Her grip tightened. Good man. He'll do right by you. Why didn't you tell me about the trust yourself? Because your mother would have found a way to take it from you the moment she knew it existed. Her voice was firm despite its frailty. You were the only one who never asked me for a single thing. Never expected anything from me. That's how I knew you were the one who'd actually use it right. My eyes burned. And the house, they made you sign papers. I don't remember it clearly, she said, shaking her head. Everything was fog. The pain medication. I know Mr. Whitfield explained it to you. We're going to fix it, I said. All of it. She studied my face for a long moment. There's something else. Something you're not telling me. So I told her. About the lottery. About the $98 million that had come from the ticket her own daughter-in-law had handed me as a joke. Nana Ruth laughed, an actual laugh, dry and delighted, like rustling paper. Karma, she said. I always believed in karma, Nora. I'm going to buy your house back, I told her. I'm going to make sure you can live there again, whatever it takes. Her hand found my cheek. I don't need you to punish anyone. I just need you to be free. And to protect what matters. I will. Promise me something. Anything. Don't let the money turn you into them. I kissed her forehead. I promise. Some promises are easy to make. That one I intended to actually keep. The Bon Voyage dinner. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, the family gathered again, this time for a Bon Voyage dinner before the cruise. I was invited, but not really as a guest. As help. Nora, can you handle the centerpieces? You're good with that sort of thing. Nora, the caterer needs direction. Nora, make sure Grandma's nurse knows we'll be gone for 10 days. I did all of it with a smile. Played the role they expected, the quiet, useful daughter who existed to make everyone else's evening run smoothly. No one at that table knew that a legal team was already working on my behalf. No one knew I'd formed an LLC to claim my winnings with a degree of privacy. No one knew that in a matter of weeks, I would be worth more than everyone in that dining room combined. Derek held court most of the evening, describing the excursions he'd booked: snorkeling, a private chef's table, spa treatments for Camille. "Shame you couldn't come along, Nora," Camille said, not sounding especially sorry. "But someone's got to water Mom's plants." "I don't mind at all," I said. "I hope you all have an amazing trip." My father clapped Derek on the shoulder. "This guy. Best thing that ever happened to this family." Derek caught my eye across the table and smiled in a way that never reached his pupils, calculating, cold, the look of a man assessing an asset rather than a person. "Hey, Nora," he said, leaning in with mock warmth. "Buy any more lottery tickets lately? Maybe you'll get $5 this time." The table laughed. "I let them." "You never know," I said pleasantly. "Luck has a way of surprising people." My mother raised her glass. "To family. To fortune. To the Bellamys." Everyone drank. I lifted my water glass and took a small sip. 12 days, I thought. In 12 days, they'll be in the middle of the ocean, and I'll be ready. The ship sails. The morning they left for the port, I stayed home. "You're not even coming to see us off?" my mother had asked the night before, that familiar note of accusation dressed up as disappointment. "I have a client meeting." "Big project." She'd sniffed. "Always work with you." As if I'd ever been offered any other role to play. I spent departure day in Whitfield's office, finalizing the LLC paperwork. My winnings would clear within the week, after taxes, roughly $60 million, more than enough for what I had planned. I was reviewing documents when my phone buzzed. "Camille." "Nora, something's wrong with Dad's card, it got declined at the port. Can you send $500? I'll pay you back." I stared at the message for a long moment. It was almost too on the nose, the first time in my entire life my family had ever directly asked me for money. I already knew why the card was declining. The debt was catching up. Derek wasn't covering things the way he'd promised. I typed back, "I don't have that to spare right now. Ask Derek, he's the wealth strategist." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Never mind, we figured it out." I didn't ask how. I didn't care. What mattered was they were on that ship now, all of them, trapped together in the middle of the ocean for the next 10 days. I turned back to Whitfield. "How soon can we file the challenge on the deed?" "Monday," he said. "Whenever you're ready to move." I looked out his office window at the city below, somewhere out there a cruise ship pulling away from the dock, and I thought about how I was about to begin my own kind of voyage. The dominoes start falling. On day 3 of the cruise, I posted a single photo to my personal page, just me, standing in front of Nana Ruth's house, the one that supposedly wasn't hers anymore. The caption was simple: "Renovation project starting soon." I knew my father checked social media constantly. It was practically his only way of keeping tabs on his daughters. That same day, the local news ran a small item: an anonymous winner had come forward to claim a massive lottery jackpot, ticket purchased at a gas station 3 miles from my parents' neighborhood. I hadn't planted that detail. The universe just has a sense of humor sometimes. My Aunt Corinne, bless her, mentioned it in the family group chat before I could even see it coming. "Did anyone hear about the lottery winner from our area? Someone won almost $100 million. Bought it right at that Circle station on Ashford." The same Circle station where my mother had bought my $2 ticket. The chat exploded with speculation. Cousins joking about it. Then a private message from my mother. "Nora, that ticket I gave you at Thanksgiving. You still have it, right?" I waited an hour before answering, letting her sit with it. "Yes, Mom. Still have it." "Why?" "Just curious." "No reason." Followed by an emoji she never used unless she was nervous. An hour after that, my phone started buzzing. Then again. Then again. "Mom. Dad. Camille. Derek." I let it all go to voicemail. By evening, I had 31 missed calls. By midnight, 62. The messages ranged from casual, "Hey sweetie, just checking in," to increasingly frantic. "Nora, please call us back, this is urgent." I set my phone face down on the nightstand. Tomorrow, I'd call them back. On my terms. With an audience. Setting up the call. 62 missed calls. I counted twice just to be sure. The voicemails themselves were practically a masterclass in emotional manipulation. "Mom, attempt 1, Nora, honey, it's Mom. Just wanted to hear your voice." "Mom, attempt 11, Nora, this is important. Please call." "Dad, attempt 2, we need to talk. Family business." "Camille, attempt 4, Nora, seriously, what's going on, Mom's freaking out." And then Derek, smooth as ever, "Nora, I think we should talk about some investment opportunities. Family helping family, you know. Call me." I sat in my new apartment, a small rental I'd quietly secured the week before, and listened to every single message, letting their rising panic wash over me like waves. None of it was concern for me. It was concern for the money. I texted Whitfield, "Is everything in place?" "Ready when you are," he replied. I opened the family group chat and typed a single message, "I'll video call tonight at 8 p.m. Everyone needs to be there. There's something important I need to share." Confirmations flooded in within seconds. "Of course, sweetie, we'll all be there," from my mother. "Looking forward to it, kiddo," from my father. Camille sent a heart. Derek sent a thumbs up. They thought they'd won. They thought I was going to announce my winnings and hand them a check, or ask for their guidance. They had no idea what was actually coming. I spent the rest of the afternoon organizing documents and rehearsing exactly what I was going to say. This wasn't about revenge. It was about the truth finally getting a chance to breathe. The video call. At exactly 8 p.m., I clicked join. Their faces filled my screen, crowded together in what looked like the ship's lounge, a tropical sunset glowing behind them through the windows. "Nora," my mother said, voice sugary sweet. "There's our girl. We miss you so much." "We really wish you were here," my father added, with a sincerity that was almost convincing. Camille waved. "Hi, sis. You look good, did you do something different with your hair?" They'd never once complimented my hair before in my life. Derek sat slightly apart, arms crossed, watching me with that same calculating gaze from the dinner table. "Thank you all for making time," I said calmly. "I know you're busy enjoying the trip." "Family comes first," my mother declared. Always. An interesting choice of words, given the last month. "So," my father leaned forward, "we heard some interesting news." "Something about a lottery ticket?" I didn't flinch. "Yes. I won." The silence that followed was deafening. Then everyone spoke at once, "Oh my God, that's incredible, how much, congratulations, Nora." I let them exhaust themselves before I answered. $98 million. My mother's hand flew to her chest. My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Camille looked like she might faint. Derek recovered first. "Nora, that's life-changing money. You're going to need real help managing that. Investments, tax strategy, asset protection." "I have a lawyer," I said. "Sure, but a family member who actually understands finance." "Before we talk about any money," I cut in, my voice steady, "there are some things this family needs to know." His smile flickered. "What kind of things?" "The truth." I shared my screen. "Let me show you something." The first document appeared, the loan agreement, Derek's signature at the bottom. "This," I said, "is a private loan between my father and Derek. $160,000, at 32% interest." My father's face went white. "Where did you get?" "And this," I continued, clicking forward, "is the deed to Grandma Ruth's house. Pledged as collateral, signed the same week she was hospitalized and barely conscious on pain medication. My mother's mouth opened. No sound came out. That signature is shaky because she had no idea what she was signing. My lawyer has the medical records to prove it. This is fraud. Nora, this is family business, my father started. I'm not finished. I clicked again. Screenshots filled the screen. These are messages between Derek and a woman named Priya. They've been seeing each other for months. Camille's face crumpled. What? I read the message aloud. Once the house deal closes, I'm done playing house with Camille. She served her purpose. Derek stood up so fast his chair scraped out of frame. Those are fabricated. She's lying. Am I? I looked directly at my sister. Camille. Ask him. Look at his face and ask him yourself. Camille turned to Derek, her voice barely above a whisper. Derek? He didn't answer. He grabbed his phone and walked out of frame entirely. My mother started crying. My father just sat there, stunned, silent. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. I'm using my winnings to pay off the loan and clear the lien on Grandma's house. The deed will be legally transferred back into her name, protected. None of you will have any claim to it going forward. Nora, please, we're family, my father tried again. Family doesn't steal from an 84-year-old woman, I said, my voice level. I'm not done, but I think this is enough for tonight. I ended the call before anyone could respond. The last thing I saw was chaos, Camille in tears, my mother shouting something I couldn't make out, my father sitting motionless with his head in his hands. Derek was nowhere in the frame at all. The silence after. I know a lot of you are cheering right now, and I get it. But hold on, because the story isn't over yet. What happened next, even I didn't fully see coming. If you're enjoying this so far, smash that like button, and stick around for what karma had in store for Derek. My apartment went quiet, just me and the fading light through the window. I'd imagined that moment for weeks. I thought I'd feel triumph. Vindication. Instead, I felt hollow. Tired, like I'd run a race I hadn't trained for. My phone exploded within seconds, calls, texts, voicemails. I put it on silent and set it face down. Then a knock at my door. I tensed, no one was supposed to know this address. Through the peephole, I saw Aunt Corinne, looking as exhausted as I felt. How did you find me? I asked, letting her in. Whitfield gave me the address. I hope that's all right. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. You did good, honey, she said. You did what none of us ever had the courage to do. Did I? My voice cracked. I just tore my whole family apart on a video call. No, she said, pulling back to hold my shoulders. They tore themselves apart years ago. You just turned the lights on. My phone buzzed. A text from Camille. I didn't know about Derek. I swear I didn't know. I'm so sorry about everything. I need time, but I'm sorry. I read it 3 times. What do you think? Corinne asked. I don't know if she means it, I admitted. I don't know if anything actually changes from here. You don't have to decide tonight, she said. She was right. For the first time in 31 years, I had time. I had options. I had freedom. The deed, and what came after. 2 weeks later, Whitfield called with good news. It's done, he said. The deed challenge went faster than expected. With the medical records and your aunt's witness statement, the bank agreed to void the original transfer. So the house. Technically, your father defaulted on payments once Derek stopped covering things. That's where your funds come in. It'll run around $210,000, principal, interest, and legal fees, to transfer the deed cleanly into your grandmother's name. Do it, I said without hesitation. There's one more thing, he added carefully. I've drafted a protection clause. Once the property is in her name, no member of the family, including your parents, can claim any right to it. Not during her lifetime and not after. It passes to you, per her original wishes, before any of this happened. I thought about the crumpled lottery ticket. The mocking smile. $2 to get rid of the inconvenient daughter. Add one more clause, I said. I want it in writing that she can live there for the rest of her life, with full-time care if she needs it. Fully paid for. Already included, he said. Thank you, Arthur. Thank your grandmother, he said. She chose you for a reason. I hung up and called the care facility that same afternoon. I'm coming to pick up Ruth Bellamy, I said. It's time to take her home. Derek, predictably, tried to control the narrative from a distance. The screenshots were fabricated, he told anyone who'd listen. Nora's unstable, jealous of Camille's life, trying to tear the family apart. It might have worked, in another era, before social media, before Priya decided she wasn't going to disappear quietly. 3 days after the call, Priya went public. Screenshots, receipts, hotel bookings, messages far more damning than the ones I'd shared, and a tearful video statement of her own. Derek Vance is a liar. He told me he was leaving his wife. Now he's pretending I don't exist. Camille filed for divorce before the ship even docked. Within a week, 2 of Derek's former lending clients came forward to the state attorney general's office with formal complaints. His interest rates weren't just unethical. In 3 states, they were flatly illegal. I didn't lift a finger for any of it. I didn't have to. The dominoes fell entirely on their own. My father declared bankruptcy the following month. The insurance brokerage he'd run for over 2 decades folded, sold off piece by piece to cover debts that had been accumulating long before I ever found that folder in his study. I felt nothing, honestly. Not satisfaction. Not pity. Just a strange, quiet emptiness. Karma, Nana Ruth said, when I told her, sitting in her own living room for the first time in over a year. I told you I believed in it. I squeezed her hand. Some things don't need words. My mother's call. My mother called me 3 weeks after the video call. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. Nora. Her voice sounded like she'd been crying for days. You've ruined us. Hello to you too. Everyone knows now, she said, her voice cracking. The neighbors. The church. My book club. I've gone there for 15 years, and now half of them won't even answer my texts. I'm sorry that's happening to you. Are you? Are you really? Her voice shook. You had everything, Nora. $98 million. You could have helped us. You could have saved your father's business. I could have covered up fraud, I said, keeping my voice level. I could have pretended Derek wasn't cheating and stealing from desperate people. I could have let you keep Grandma's house out from under her. We're your family. So is she. Silence stretched between us. You're so cold, she finally said. When did you become so cold? I learned from the best. She hung up. It was the last time we spoke for almost 6 months. My father never called at all. I heard, through Aunt Corinne, that they'd moved into a small apartment across town. He was working as a mechanic under someone else now. My mother had taken a job at a grocery store. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel vindicated. I just kept living my life, because that had always been the point, not to punish anyone, but to finally be free. My sister's letter. A handwritten letter arrived 3 months after the cruise. Not an email. Not a text. 2 pages, on pale blue stationery, in Camille's looping cursive, handwriting I hadn't seen since she wrote me notes in middle school. Dear Nora. I don't know how to start this, so I'll just start. I'm sorry. Not because I want anything from you. I'm sorry because I should have said it years ago and I didn't. I knew Derek had problems. I didn't know about Priya, but I knew something was wrong, and I told myself it wasn't my business, because admitting it meant admitting my whole life was built on something fake. I knew Mom and Dad treated you unfairly. I told myself you were fine, that you were always so independent, so capable, that you didn't need me to defend you. That was a coward's excuse. You were my sister. I should have defended you anyway. The divorce is final now. I'm starting over, and I don't fully know what that looks like yet. You don't owe me anything, and you don't have to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I missed for 30 years. I'm so sorry. Love, Camille. I read it 3 times, then folded it carefully and set it in my desk drawer. I didn't write back right away, but for the first time, something shifted, a door that had been locked for years creaking open, just slightly. We had coffee the following month. It was awkward at first, both of us unsure how to be sisters again. But we were trying, and that was a start worth having. Grandma comes home. Nana Ruth came home in the spring. I was there when the transport van pulled into the driveway, the same driveway where I'd learned to ride a bike, the same one where she used to stand waving until she shrank out of view in the rearview mirror. She looked smaller, frielier than she had before, but when the attendant wheeled her up the new ramp I'd installed, her eyes found the garden, overgrown, neglected, but still there, and she smiled. It needs work, she said. I'm going to fix it, I told her. That's my specialty, remember? I'd spent the previous weeks preparing the house, accessibility upgrades, a proper bed on the ground floor, round-the-clock nursing care on standby, the kind of comfort money could finally provide, because for once I had money to spare. We sat together in the sunroom that afternoon, watching finches at the feeder I'd hung. You did all this? She asked, gesturing at the changes. It's your house. It should be comfortable. She was quiet for a long moment. Your mother called me last week, she said. I tensed. What did she want? For me to talk you into forgiving them all. Bringing the family back together. What did you tell her? Nana Ruth turned to look at me, her eyes as sharp as ever despite everything. I told her you never actually left. Family isn't showing up for a holiday dinner. It's showing up when it actually matters. She reached for my hand. You showed up, Nora. When everyone else saw only what they could take from me, you saw what you could give instead. I blinked back tears. I just did what was right. That's the hardest thing in the world to do, she said. And you did it anyway. We sat together until the sun went down. Nothing more needed to be said. 1 year later. 1 year later, I barely recognize my own life. I still work, not because I need the money, but because I genuinely love it. My studio has grown, 2 new hires, an actual office with windows, and a wait list of clients longer than I ever imagined possible. I've designed 2 public parks in the past year alone. Most of the lottery money sits untouched, diversified across accounts I barely think about. I bought a modest house near Nana Ruth, nothing extravagant, just enough room for me and the rescue dog I finally adopted, a scruffy mutt named Juniper who loves digging holes in my test gardens. The real legacy, though, is the foundation I started in my grandmother's name, the Ruth Bellamy Foundation, which awards scholarships to young women pursuing careers in design, art, and craft. Women whose families told them their talents weren't practical, that their voices didn't matter as much as someone else's. Every acceptance letter I send out feels like a small, quiet act of defiance. I visit my grandmother most days. Some days she's sharp, full of stories from decades ago. Other days she's tired, and we just sit together in comfortable silence, watching the garden come back to life. Your tulips are coming up, I told her one afternoon. You planted those, she reminded me, smiling. Everything good I have is because I shared it with someone who appreciated it. Remember that. I would. I was living proof of it. The money didn't make me happy, if I'm honest. What it gave me was options. Freedom from other people's expectations. Room to actually breathe. The happiness itself came from somewhere else entirely, from work that mattered, from relationships built on truth instead of performance, from finally being allowed to be exactly who I already was. People ask me sometimes if my family and I have reconciled. The honest answer is complicated. My parents live in that small apartment across town. My father still works as a mechanic. My mother's still at the grocery store. They're stable, but struggling, nothing like the life they'd once imagined for themselves. We communicate occasionally. My father sends a short text on my birthday, "Hope you're well, love Dad." I answer the same way. That's the extent of it. My mother has never really apologized. She calls now and then, usually to mention her circumstances or hint that she could use a little help. I listen politely, then change the subject. Sometimes we manage a few civil minutes before the resentment creeps back in. Sometimes she hangs up frustrated. I'm not ready to let them fully back in. I might never be, and that's all right. Forgiveness isn't something you owe to people who hurt you. It's something you give yourself, when and if you're actually ready. Camille is different. We've had coffee together more times than I can count now. We text, not every day, but enough. She's rebuilding, new apartment, new job, a good therapist helping her unpack how she ended up with someone like Derek in the first place. I didn't realize how broken our family was until I got some distance from it, she told me last month. I thought that was just normal. I thought I was lucky. We both believed what we had to believe to survive, I said. She nodded, and for once, she didn't cry. Progress. As for Derek, I don't know where he ended up, and I genuinely don't care. Some people don't deserve any more space in your thoughts than the bare minimum required to move past them. I've made my peace. I'm moving forward. That's enough. People always ask me the same question. Did $98 million change your life? The answer usually surprises them. Not really. What changed my life was a single moment, the moment I finally understood that I had spent 31 years waiting for people to see my value, and they never would. Not because I wasn't valuable. Because they weren't looking, and they were never going to start. That lottery ticket was a gift, but not because of what it was worth. Because of what it revealed. The people who should have loved me unconditionally only started paying attention once they thought I had something they wanted. That revelation was worth more than any jackpot could ever be. If you're watching this and you recognize even a piece of your own family in it, I want you to hear something clearly. You don't need $98 million to set yourself free. You don't need luck, and you don't need anyone's permission. You need one decision, to stop letting other people define your worth for you. Set your boundaries. Walk away from tables where you're only ever invited to serve. Build your own table, if that's what it takes. The money gave me options. But the power was always mine. I just didn't know it, until someone handed me a $2 lottery ticket with a smirk on their face, thinking they'd finally put me in my place. They did put me in my place. Just not the one they expected. I'm Nora Bellamy. 32 years old now. Landscape architect. Dog mom. Granddaughter. Someone who finally chose herself. That's the real jackpot. Thanks so much for staying with me through this whole story. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I see you, and I mean that. Drop your own story in the comments, I genuinely read every single one. If this resonated with you, hit that like and subscribe button, and check the description for more stories like this one. Until next time, know your worth, and never let anyone hand you less than you deserve.